15th. My name is Dale. I'm one of the pastors here at Redeemer Bible Church, and this is your daily word. And today we're gonna look at a passage that, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of a few of the pastors on our team, um, has been historically misinterpreted and misunderstood. Now, I realize that that's a bold statement to make, but I'm going to employ a hermeneutic, that a biblical interpretation, and that's what the word hermeneutic means. It means basically basic principles of biblical interpretation. And so we always want to read passages in context. So what was above the passage? What's below the passage? Is it a continued train of thought from the author? And today I think we have an example of that. So as we begin Luke chapter 21, let me just read the first 4 verses. I have this up on my computer. It says, Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. So remember what we talked about yesterday? The religious loved to be seen. They loved to be seen publicly, offering things, wearing their robes, being seated in the best places at the feast. They loved being noticed for who they were, religious people. So Jesus here in Luke 21 verse 1 is continuing his train of thought. Okay, so let's read it and then let's talk about it. Okay, so let me read verse 1 again and I'll just continue through verse 4. Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. And he saw a poor widow put 2 small copper coins. And he said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more than all of them. For they all contributed from or out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on." Now, historically, a lot of pastors, a lot of preachers teach that that is an act of sacrificial giving that is a model for all of us. And it certainly was sacrificial, but I'm going to make the case that this was a further devouring of the widow, of the religious system, that she's actually a victim of what I would consider a prosperity gospel. Her leaders, the religious leaders of the day, demanding from the people that they sacrifice this way. While they give out of an abundance, right? They're not feeling a sacrifice. They're demanding that people give out of this very sacrificial, give all that you have approach. Isn't the Lord worth it? This is an abuse. This is an abuse of the widow that Jesus was talking about yesterday at the very end of chapter 20. This is a continued line of thinking from the Lord. The temple system, the religious system in first century Israel was a corrupt system that was motivated out of profit for the religious people. Now, remember, Jesus overturned the money changers earlier in the week, and now he's calling out this system that is abusing and devouring the life of a widow. So, am I right? Am I wrong? Well, it's interesting. I believe I'm right because it's in context. And Jesus goes on in the rest of our reading day talking about what? He's foretelling the destruction of this system. He's foretelling the destruction of the temple, that God's judgment is going to come upon the religious people of Israel, upon this wicked system of corruption. So contextually, I'm going to stand on the fact that this is not something that we should model as believers. We should not give our last cent to a religious system. Any system that's calling you to give your last cent, to sow a seed so that you can reap the benefit later as they reap the benefit today from your sacrifice, should be rejected. And as we talked about yesterday, this is a prosperity gospel system. They were abusing people. They were demanding of people, and they would rob people of blessing, of sacrifice, the sacrifice of atonement that they were caught up in with the sacrificial system at the temple. They were absolutely taking advantage of poor people. And any church, any religious system that takes advantage of poor people and devours the most vulnerable should be rejected, should be called out, and should be dismantled, and should be, obviously spoken against. So if the Lord was willing to speak against the system of the day in Jerusalem, we today in the 21st century certainly should speak against any religious system that is taking advantage of the vulnerable. And that's what we will continue to do here at Redeemer Bible Church. And when it comes up in our daily reading, we're going to talk about it. So I hope that's helpful. I'm sure there are people who will watch this that will disagree with what I said, because like I said, historically, people have used this passage to teach about sacrificial giving. But when you look at it in context, it is absolutely an abuse of the vulnerable. Jesus is continuing his line of thought about how these religious leaders who loved to be seen in front of men, who loved to be in high places and have the best seats, it's a continuation of his thought that they devour widows. So I hope that's helpful. We'll come back tomorrow and read the rest of Luke 21 as Jesus continues to confront the religious system of the day